Good morning. I'm having a very rare day off of work today, which is good timing because the sun's out. I just have a relatively quiet couple of days with work, and then it will be all hands to the pump again later in the week. I've been asked to talk about being chucked out of prisons, which has happened to me a few times. I'm just trying to think now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Some of those incidents were wrong. I was chucked out a couple of times for so-called security reasons that were just fabricated. But what I will talk about now is the time in 2010 when I was thrown out of Stanford Hill Open Prison for security reasons, and on that occasion they were bang right. I'm not really sure how and why this happened, but when I got to open prison in 2010, I had about 15 months left to serve, and I just took my eye off the ball really, and I started getting involved in contraband, not drugs, but I ended up quite quickly after I got there being probably the main, or certainly one of the main suppliers of mobile phones, steroids, spice when it didn't used to kill people, alcohol, even protein. In Stanford Hill back then you couldn't buy protein powders. So yeah, I was bang at it in there, and I got caught out and thrown out, and I deserved it. So I ended up in Elmley, which is next door to Stanford Hill. I was pretty lucky. I was sat in the holding room in reception there, and one of the gym screws came and got me, and basically said, "You work in the gym here now." So that was a bonus. Obviously I'd literally only been in the building about 10 minutes. The screws knew me because I'd been a gym orderly for about 3 years, maybe 3.5 years in Swaleside. And when I left Stanford Hill, I was a health promotion orderly stroke gym orderly stroke lifeguard. So I was known, and I guess I was a safe bet. So I was taken straight to the gym. About 2 days later, I was sacked from the gym by security, who obviously had got wind of the steroids thing in Stanford Hill, and they said I couldn't work there. So then the gym screws came to me and said, "Well, how about you just be here? We won't employ you, but you can be at the gym all day, and if you happen to help out with a bit of cleaning up and tidying up, then that's on a voluntary basis." So I agreed to that, no problem. And a couple of days after that, I was security shipped out of the jail, because obviously security had got wind of that as well, and they clearly weren't very happy about it. So they came and got me about 6 o'clock one morning, chucked me on a bus. It was a long drive to Chelmsford, and I ended up spending a night in Chelmsford, which is a local remand jail. And then the next morning I was put on another sweat box, and another long journey to High Point in Suffolk. Arrived there about 7 o'clock at night. Was put straight in a cell, and that was me. Then the next morning I went to what's called the bubble, the wing office, to give them my list of phone numbers that needed to be cleared for me to call. Came back to my cell. There was a couple of guys, one standing in my doorway. I knew it didn't look right. I pushed past him, went in. His mate was in there with all my bags emptied all over the floor. There was a bit of a fight. I got my face cut down here in the fight with a razor blade, and when the screws got wind of it afterwards, they blamed me and said that it must have been something that I'd done to somebody in a previous jail, which wasn't true. I didn't know these fellas. I wouldn't even recognise them now if I saw them. So I was kind of parked up really in High Point, and then after a week, when the residential governor was clear that he was never going to get any information out of me about it all, I was swagged again to Edmund's Hill, which is about 10 minutes on a sweatbox. It's pretty close, and Edmund's Hill's now called High Point North. And I did the rest of my time there, the last 9 months. Some of the things I remember that happened there, I met a couple of pretty decent fellas, and so that kind of eased it. I was a long way from home. I did have 1 or 2 visits, and my son's mum brought her first son to see me all the time, pretty much every weekend, and that was nice. At the time we were forming a relationship, and yeah, things went from there. So yeah, obviously, unfortunately, they had to see my face when it was cut open, and her son was he was quite amusing about it. He asked me if the policemen did it. He was about, I'm not sure if he was even 3 at the time, but he's a switched on little kid. So I said no, the policemen didn't do it, and he actually walked up to them and asked them if they did it, and it's kind of amusing. I was called to court during those last 9 months, and that was a nightmare. Had to pack yet again. Was being taken to Belmarsh to appear at the Old Bailey for another confiscation hearing. I'd been in prison nearly 8 years by this time, and the confiscation was still going on, because I had a flat in Spain, and it was in my mum's name, and she died when I was in Belmarsh, and I had to try and deal with inheritance, sale, and forfeiture of the money to the confiscation unit, and they just left me to get on with it myself in prison. It took years to sort out, but we got there in the end, thanks to some help from my brilliant solicitor Gerald Elvidge, who did so much work for me that he wasn't being paid for over the years, and unfortunately I still haven't found him so that I can thank him properly for all that he did, considering he was a family lawyer when he became my solicitor. He did brilliantly well. I'll have to do 2 videos for this, so excuse me, and I'll be back. I hope you're having a lovely day.